That's E3 over. Where did the games go? Welcome back to another video. Today, friends, we're talking about the racing games. We're going to be talking about E3 in general, but mostly wanted to touch upon racing games because obviously that's the topic of the channel. And there were no games. Where were the games? We basically got nothing. Obviously, that's kind of a lie. We got Lego Forza, which was something. It's something that I was expecting. I knew for a long time that they were going to save it for E3 because there were rumors of Forza Motorsport 8, which is going to be the next game, which generally would release this year. There's been a whole mishmash of information for this, but essentially it looks like it's coming out in the next generation. For those who don't know, the next generation consoles are launching or plan to launch next holiday season. But other than Forza, we also have the Crew 2, which was a no-show. It was something I was expecting to possibly be there, and also No Need for Speed, which we already knew about, so I don't want to talk too much about that. But in general, we had no racing games at the show whatsoever. In terms of press conference, obviously on the show floor, I believe there will be grid playable, but other than that, some top-down game from Squeenix. Racing games! I am sorely disappointed. I am devastated. There is nothing available for me. The Crew 2, let's talk about that real quick. So, I was expecting it to come out or be announced this E3, but because the game obviously was delayed of launch, I imagine the idea is to announce it at the next Gamescom, or whenever. It's probably Gamescom, because of the fact that, again, it was delayed. The game launched a little bit later than it would have potentially launched if they had stuck to the release date, but that does mean I'm assuming Gamescom is going to be where we get the first gameplay of that. But what's annoying is both of these companies, for other reasons, for multiple reasons, have avoided this show altogether. But in my head, it's such a missed opportunity for one of these games to come out and say, look, we're here. We're doing an amazing job, because there were literally no racing games at E3 other than Forza Lego, which for the majority of people had a very nice laugh at. I personally am quite excited for it, but other than that, it is the only racing game of that big caliber that was on show at E3, and I'm excited. It was a missed opportunity for either of those two games, due to the fact that the limelight of the other would have completely gone and it would have been saved for the Gamescom event. Now they're both again going to have to compete, and I don't know what the update for the Crew 2 is going to be per se, but I imagine obviously to a lot of people, to the untrained eye, Need for Speed and the Crew 2 are pretty similar games. They're racing car games that are open world, and they're both arcade, and to the mass market, Need for Speed, in my mind, might have the advantage here because of the fact it's the big name, if that makes sense. Not to say that the Crew 2 is going to do bad, because I love the Crew 2, you know, it's my go-to game right now. I was just thinking this in terms of I want it to do as well as possible, because I think this is going to be a cracking expansion. If anything on the level of Wild Run, which if you hadn't played Wild Run, the update completely changed the game. If you played after Wild Run came out, it completely revitalized the whole game. It added the summit in, it added so many different disciplines or specs, should I say, at that time. A whole graphics overhaul, which was free. There was so much content packed into there, and obviously this update is huge, right? I want them to have as long as possible, but I do think in the chance of announcing it when there's nothing else to really show, there's nothing else on display, I think there was a missed opportunity from someone's party there. But what that does mean is that we're going to have an absolutely amazing Gamescom compared to what we had with E3. E3 in general was pretty slow this year. There was not much at all. I've so far watched all the conferences except Nintendo's. Nintendo's, from the point of me making this video, is on in about 2 hours time, which I'm ridiculously excited for, I'll have you know. But in general, of the big ones, the main consoles, the Xbox and the PlayStation, there's genuinely been nothing. I mean, we got some trailers of games we already knew existed, but to me that doesn't count as new stuff. If Sony, for example, came and showed us more of The Last of Us, I would have given them a backhand. I am glad that they backed out, decided not to do an E3 show, because they know they have nothing. They've announced the games coming out this year already, and we know that next year the new consoles are out, so they would be basically either showing us the new games before the console's already out, which is rather annoying, or For example, they could be showing us games that we've already seen a million times because we know what's coming out this year already. So I'm glad that they did that. Microsoft spouted about having 60 games and all this kind of thing. And honestly, the most exciting thing there was Forza Lego for me, which was an expansion. And the new Elite controller. It's a great controller. I love the Elite controller. I actually use an Elite controller, the first generation Elite controller myself. It's my go-to with the higher analog sticks, just in case you wanted to know some stuff about me. It's interesting to see how it's all coming together. Are these companies hating E3 and they're backing away and destroying? Get away, E3! Because if you think about it, that's something I didn't realize until recently. I watched someone else's video on the topic. Microsoft doesn't actually do E3. They don't have a presence at E3. They have their conference in their own entertainment center across the street from E3, and then they have the actual games playable at their own location. So you cannot play again, I haven't been in the actual conference center for a long time because again, I get press access, so I generally don't go to the actual show floor unless it's a game that I don't have access to that I want to try. For example, Animal Crossing would be one of them. Please, Nintendo! But my point is, all these companies are really pulling away any content from E3. But what's weird is obviously EA had nothing to show this year because they showed, again, updates to their games that are going to be free. It seems really weird of an EA move to do so. Here's a free update, here's a paid expansion, but there's more free updates than paid expansions, which is very much not like EA generally is. I do feel like Sony did the best here. Last year their show was really not that great, and don't get me wrong, I'm more of a PlayStation person when it comes to actually playing the games because more people play it, but Sony's E3 show was devastatingly bad. I've never seen a show like that. I've seen, you know, some shows not be so great and they still show some good content, but all they showed is games that were already coming out, we already knew about, we'd already seen, and then they would have done the same this year. Again, I'm very glad that they decided to pull out of it, but obviously, what can we expect from the Crew 2's expansion? I've already made a video dedicated to that, but what I'm hoping is that it gets announced at Gamescom now because E3 has been checked off the list. Hopefully it comes out in November time. I'm kind of hoping that it comes out a little bit earlier than Need for Speed or a little bit later. I think a little bit earlier would do a little bit better in the fact that obviously more people are going to try a new game over those that are going to try an expansion. Don't get me wrong, expansions are fantastic, especially when the Crew 2 does it because, or the Crew does it, or Ivory Tower does it, because they do a significant sized expansions as in old MMO expansions. That kind of level, if you know what I'm talking about. But either way, people may not know that, and for example, unless they add some new map or completely whole new game, people are going to jump on Need for Speed pretty quickly. So if they release it beforehand, it would give people the time to play it. Then Need for Speed comes out, and honestly, I know I'm going to go back to it. If it releases a little bit later, I guess it would have to be quite a bit later if they want to release it. So I'm talking like a month or two later after Need for Speed is launched. So I would hope it would be beforehand, but that's my personal preference. I don't know about what everyone else thinks. But yeah, I mean, this E3 has been pretty average. There's not been much here. And it's just, again, a factor of that because the new consoles are coming out next year and all development focus has been switched to those new consoles. Which makes sense, you know, they need to sell the consoles somehow. Ubisoft obviously had a decent stack of games already, which makes me think maybe why they were okay with delaying the announcement of the Crew 2's expansion. In terms of Motorsport 8, ignore all of the, oh, they're doing it to make it a better game, because that's not the main primary reason. Hopefully they are taking time. They said development was not only just started recently, so they don't have, you know, a massively extended development cycle for this game, but what they're doing is they're delaying it for the next console, right? They want to get Forza Motorsport is usually used as a showcase game, but what I'm hoping the big change with this Motorsport game is that they're going to, instead of releasing a game every 2 years in terms of Motorsport, so Motorsport Horizon, Motorsport, I'm hoping that what they're going to do is they realize what big mistakes they've been making. Every single release of Motorsport games recently has been lacking and glitchy and ignoring the main audience of these games in terms of playability. And what I'm hoping to see is that they release that one game and update it for a good while, and then release a new game once they have figured out an actual proper feature that isn't puddles. Anyway, be sure to smash like, subscribe if you do. Let me know your thoughts on E3 down below in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.